All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Look, Nikola Tesla is an undisputed engineering genius. There is absolutely no denying that, right? But today, we're going to act a bit like historical detectives. We are looking past the memes, the relentless internet hype, and all that modern mythology to uncover the actual, documented truth behind his legendary status.
If you spend any time browsing the web or watching certain modern documentaries, you are bound to hit this recurring question: did Nikola Tesla really invent the 20th century? You know the story. He's usually portrayed as this lone inventor god, right? A guy who single-handedly dragged humanity kicking and screaming into the modern era, all while being constantly thwarted by lesser minds and greedy businessmen. But is that narrative actually accurate?
Just look at the staggering list of claims out there. According to popular internet lore, Tesla invented AC power, the transformer, radar, the fluorescent lamp, and let's not forget free wireless energy, a working earthquake machine, and literally a lethal death ray. It is an incredibly impressive list. It's also our straw man for today because, well, we're going to systematically dismantle a lot of these claims using actual historical records.
So here's how we'll unpack this massive legend. We're going to start with the media hype of the 1880s, then debunk those major AC power myths. From there, we'll explore his wireless power dream, examine those wild claims about earthquakes and death rays, dive into the mystery of his missing FBI files, and finally, land on his true historical legacy. Let's get to it.
Section 1. The Internet's Inventor God and the Media Hype in the 1880s.
You see, the hype around Tesla, it isn't just a modern internet phenomenon. It actually started while he was still alive. Because at his core, Tesla was a showman. While other brilliant engineers were, quietly grinding away in labs in places like Schenectady or Pittsburgh, Tesla was living large on Manhattan's Fifth Avenue. He was dining with the New York elite, relentlessly promoting himself to the press. He gave these incredibly eloquent, highly metaphysical speeches that just completely captivated the media. He totally understood that to succeed in that ruthlessly competitive environment of New York, he had to keep up the wizardry and the show.
Section 2. Debunking the AC myths. Specifically, the War of Currents.
Okay, this brings us to a rapid-fire teardown of the most pervasive myths surrounding his electrical inventions. Let's start with a big one. The myth states that Tesla invented the transformer. The documented fact? The Ganz company in Budapest was already creating transformers in the late 1870s, while Tesla was literally still in school. And William Stanley invented the first modern transformer in 1885. According to historical records from the Edison Tech Center, Tesla didn't actually pitch a mature AC system until 1885. He was brilliant, no doubt, but he was really standing on the shoulders of early European pioneers.
Then there's radar, another major historical discrepancy. The myth claims Tesla invented radar in 1917, but look at the historical records. They show radar was actually made possible by a wide array of inventors. It started with Germany's Christian Holzmeier way back in 1903 and led up to Britain's Robert Watson Watt demonstrating the first high-frequency radar in 1935. So Tesla definitely theorized about it, sure, but others actually built and proved the technology.
The history of the Niagara Falls plant is the perfect example of this disconnect. People love to claim the 1895 Niagara Falls plant was the absolute first commercial AC hydro plant. It simply wasn't. Mikhail Dolivo-Dobrovolsky built the first full three-phase AC plant in Frankfurt 4 years earlier, in 1891. The takeaway here is that Tesla was not some lone visionary of AC power. He was an incredibly intelligent competitor in a global race where European inventors were frequently the ones actually leading the charge.
Moving on to Section 3. The Wireless Power Dream and the infamous Wardenclyffe Tower. Now, this was his most wildly audacious project and really the absolute cornerstone of the modern free energy legend. Back in 1901, Tesla began constructing Wardenclyffe Tower, a towering 187-foot structure over in Shoreham, New York. His vision was just staggering. He wanted to wirelessly broadcast electrical power and information across the entire globe, using the Earth's resonance and the ionized atmosphere as giant conductors. But the project failed. Financier J.P. Morgan pulled his funding when he realized two things. It was going to be wildly expensive to build, and far more importantly, free, unmetered electricity couldn't easily be monetized.
But the actual physics behind his idea? Absolutely fascinating. Tesla utilized a spherically symmetric electric field geometry near what he called a magnifier. Now, unlike an ordinary radio antenna that just radiates a standard electromagnetic wave out into space, Tesla's magnifier created an oscillating electric field in its near field that was vastly larger than its accompanying magnetic field. Basically, he wanted to pump that massive energy right down into the Earth itself.
And the incredible thing is, get this, the near-field physics actually worked on a small scale. Modern researchers have replicated this, showing a fluorescent lamp lighting up completely wirelessly, just by being held near a magnifier. That intense electric field really can drive electrodeless tubes. So the underlying science, it was real. Even if his grand plan to scale it up and power the entire planet wirelessly was, well, practically and economically flawed.
Section 4, Earthquakes and Death Rays. Welcome to the mad scientist era.
Okay, so as Tesla aged, his ideas definitely shifted further away from practical infrastructure and drifted a lot closer to science fiction. To understand the whole earthquake machine myth, we first have to understand resonance. Simply put, it's the mechanical principle where applying really small additions of energy at just the right frequency causes larger and larger vibrations in an object. Kind of like pushing a kid on a swing at exactly the right moment. Tesla built this little 7-inch, steam-powered mechanical oscillator, and legend has it that in 1898, he clamped it to a beam and nearly shook his entire New York laboratory right to the ground.
But let's be real for a second. Here's the reality check. Modern engineers and scientists, including the awesome team at Mythbusters, have actually tested this exact principle. And they proved that while a small oscillator vibrating at a resonant frequency can certainly make a massive structure, like a bridge, noticeably wobble, it is nowhere near strong enough to cause an actual earthquake. Modern structures are specifically built to safely damp out those vibrations. So a pocket-sized earthquake machine? Practically impossible. And then we have teleforce, or as the press enthusiastically dubbed it, the death ray. In the 1930s, Tesla claimed he had designed a weapon that could shoot a beam of metal ions hurtling at 270,000 miles per hour, packing 100 billion watts of power. He literally boasted it could shoot down airplanes from 250 miles away. You can only imagine how those grandiose claims stoked intense anxieties in the years right leading up to World War II.
But after Tesla passed away in 1943, the U.S. government hired an expert, MIT physicist Dr. John G. Trump, to analyze Tesla's private papers. And his conclusion was a pretty brutal reality check. He stated that Tesla's later work was, quote, primarily of a speculative, philosophical, and promotional character. Yeah, he found absolutely no workable principles for a death ray. It was, sadly, largely a fantasy of an aging, albeit brilliant mind.
Section 5. The Missing FBI Files. Conspiracies and Cold Wars.
The immediate aftermath of Tesla's death is where the history gets really murky, starting with a massive discrepancy. So the FBI originally recorded that there were 80 trunks of Tesla's belongings and scientific papers. But years later, when his estate was finally sent over to the Nikola Tesla Museum in Belgrade, only 60 trunks arrived. So did the government just safely consolidate the boxes to save space, or did they keep 20 trunks of top-secret files? That 80 versus 60 discrepancy has fueled decades, literally decades, of conspiracy theories.
And what's absolutely fascinating is the historical irony that followed. When those trunks arrived in communist Yugoslavia during the height of the Cold War, the Soviets suddenly had access to them. Almost immediately, Soviet leaders began dropping these cryptic hints about fantastic new weapons. Even though Tesla's death ray was totally unproven, the sheer terror that the Soviets might actually build one based on his notes, that fear heavily influenced billions of dollars in U.S. military spending. It directly inspired Ronald Reagan's Strategic Defense Initiative, also known as Star Wars. Talk about a ripple effect.
Finally, Section 6, Tesla's true historical legacy. So it's time to just strip away all the supernatural myths, the missing trunks, and the imaginary death rays, and reveal the genuine, deeply impactful engineer underneath. Because while he absolutely did not single-handedly invent the 20th century or pull free energy out of thin air, he was undeniably a brilliant innovator. I mean, he laid the crucial groundwork for remote control, radio guidance, and the ability to create unlimited wireless channels. His documented work on high-frequency power and wireless tech remains deeply embedded in the communication devices that you and I use every single day.
Which leaves us with this final thought. If Tesla's real, verifiable engineering feats are so impressive that they literally still power our wireless world today, why do we find the myth of the tragic, suppressed, mad scientist so much more appealing? Perhaps it says a whole lot more about human nature and our craving for dramatic pop science than it does about the man himself. I really hope this explainer inspires you to dig deeper into the real, documented history of technology. Because let's be honest, the truth is almost always far more fascinating than the fiction. Thanks for hanging out with me.